No DQ Galaxy. We are live with a recap of Monday Night Raw for March 4th, 2024. We continue on the road to WrestleMania. Shout out to everybody watching this, whether it's live or on demand. I very much appreciate your viewership and support. Now, let's get to the show. We kicked off Raw with highlights from SmackDown with The Rock. And then we had Cody Rhodes come into the ring for a promo. He brought up The Rock's 21-minute Instagram video and the SmackDown promo. Cody made it clear, do not talk bad about his dog. He did not appreciate The Rock taking a shot at his dog. He then introduced Seth freaking Rollins, the World Heavyweight Champion. Cody noted that Rollins has to face Drew McIntyre at WrestleMania and understands if Rollins wants to focus on the world title match. But Rollins said that he is hell-bent on taking down the bloodline. The crowd chanted, "Rocky sucks." And Rollins revealed that he has a new name for The Rock, Diarrhea Dwayne. Is Vince back? Just saying. Sounds like something Vince McMahon would come up with. Anyways, I guess it worked because the crowd started chanting Diarrhea Dwayne. There you go. It worked. The important thing here, though, is that Rollins revealed that he is 100% medically cleared, and he will be at SmackDown. Cody had maybe the funniest line of the night. He said that he's not going to whine in a 20-minute promo, and instead, he's going to show up on SmackDown and take care of business. This was funny because it felt like this promo went about 20 minutes, and it was like 8:23 Eastern when Cody said this line. I was not a fan of this opening segment. I feel like it was 20 minutes of just a lot of rambling. Basically, the too long didn't read summary of this was that Rollins is cleared. He wants to finish off the bloodline, and they're coming to SmackDown. And Rollins has the name Diarrhea Dwayne for The Rock. That was it. The rest of it was just blah, 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 blah. Time filler. So, yeah. Wasn't a big fan of this opening segment. And then we had Gunther, the Intercontinental Champion, versus Dominic Mysterio. The first of multiple heel versus heel matches on this show. And this was pretty entertaining. Dominic chopped Gunther, which you do not do. I mean, this is the equivalent to headbutting a Samoan. Like, it's just a recipe for disaster if you do something like this. So Dominic tried to escape the ring. You had JD McDonough out there providing a distraction. And Dominic actually got in some offense. He slammed Gunther's hand into the ring post. And then after the commercial break, Gunther did take control. He chopped Dominic several times. But then, even though the crowd was behind Gunther, they were chanting one more time. Gunther was ready to end the match. He went for the cover, but then he had second thoughts. He lifted up Dominic, and then he went for a power bomb, but Dominic countered, almost beat Gunther, hit the 619, but Gunther was able to avoid the frog splash and then finally picked up the win with the power bomb, followed by the Boston Crab. He actually won with the submission. Entertaining match, but another noteworthy thing here, and I thought this was very noteworthy. You had Michael Cole and Pat McAfee acknowledge the retirement of Sting. They actually mentioned it. Michael Cole congratulated Sting after almost 40 years retiring from the ring. And Pat McAfee said it was absolutely an epic match last night. Michael Cole was very quick to get back to business, but I, quite frankly, expected nothing. I did not think they would say anything, but they did acknowledge Sting's retirement. And Pat McAfee, he said it was an epic match. Like that was really classy. I thought that was a nice gesture by WWE to acknowledge Sting's retirement live on the air. We have a couple super chats here. First of all, shout out to Caleb Jacobs, longtime viewer, said The Rock is definitely turning on Roman Reigns at WrestleMania. I would not be shocked to see it happen. You know, Rock did do the L again on SmackDown. And people took note that Paul Heyman glanced over as The Rock was doing this. So we'll see what that means. And I suspect there is definitely something to that. So thank you for that, Caleb. And we have a big WWE fan. WWE is greater than AEW. Sent in a $5 super chat. Says, off-topic question. Did you ever watch the Nightmare on Elm Street TV series, Freddy's Nightmares? If so, what did you think? Never actually saw them, believe it or not, as much of a horror buff as I am. And you could tell by the shirt here, I just want to pet cats and watch horror movies. I never saw that TV series. Maybe that's something I need to check out. It is wild to think that I never saw that series, but maybe I'll check it out at some point and get back to you on that. Thank you for the super chat. And now let's get back to Raw. We had Adam Pearce confronting Damage Control backstage, wanted to know why Dakota Kai was there. She responded by saying that they are wanting to scout out Shayna Baszler and Zoe Stark. And then Shinsuke Nakamura approached Adam Pearce about the Intercontinental title, and Pearce said he was going to make an announcement later on in the show. Shout out to Psycho Jet Black, long-time viewer, sent in a $2 super chat. Thank you for that. Says, if Sting was in WWE, it would have been Sting versus Corbin in the retirement match. Probably, or something really lame if Sting had his retirement match in WWE. And I mentioned this on Twitter. For all of the criticism that Tony Khan gets, he nailed Sting's final run. He utilized Sting very well over the past 3 years and gave Sting a crazy finale. Like that main event, that show was built around Sting. And he went out there and he had a hell of a hardcore match to wrap up his career, you know. It was very memorable. And hats off to Tony Khan. If I was wearing a hat, I would definitely take it off and tip the hat to him. We had Shayna Baszler and Zoe Stark going up against Katana Chance and Kaden Carter. I mean, it was an okay match. Crowd really still doesn't care much about the tag team division for the women, and who can blame them after the lackluster booking over the past couple of years. Carter and Chance did get some promo time, vowed to get back to the top and be at WrestleMania. Yeah, right. Wishful thinking there. They did get in some offense in the match. They hit a pretty cool double Spanish fly off the top to Zoe, but Zoe kicked out, and then they delivered the after party, but Shayna Baszler broke up the pin, and then Zoe Starks rode up chance to get the win. Zoe Stark, not Starks. We think of Ricky Starks, so we end up putting an S there when there is no S. Zoe Stark. Match was all right, but yeah, hard to really get invested in it. And then after the match, Dakota Kai and Damage Control got in the ring, and they said they'll take care of Shayna Baszler and Zoe Stark. Not there in San Antonio, Texas, but next week on Monday Night Raw in Houston, in a superior city, as Dakota put it. Shayna got the mic, said it's about time, and they would see them on next week's show. I'm a little surprised that they're not doing this at WrestleMania. Like, Shayna and Zoe are like the one team that have some credibility. Why not do this match at WrestleMania? Because when the champs retain, and I presume they will, then who do you have? Maybe you just don't do a women's tag match at WrestleMania? I don't know. I mean, wouldn't shock me if that's the case. Shout out to Psycho Jet Black, who sent in a $5 super chat. Thank you for that. Says, seriously, I could see WWE and Triple H giving Kurt Angle a sort of last-minute retirement match at WrestleMania where he just ankle locks a jobber and wins. I don't think that's going to happen at this point. Angle had his retirement match. I don't see him coming back for anything else at this point. I would be very surprised if he does any kind of a match again in WWE. He might make an appearance now and then, but I don't think they're going to do any kind of match with him. You know, I think it's over. It was what it was. And yes, I am wearing shorts right now, jean shorts or jorts, whatever you want to call them, because Houseman needed to know if I'm wearing pants when I do these videos. The answer is yes. I could have no pants on, though. I could be lying to you, but I'm not. Or am I? Backstage, we had Damian Priest talking about how they're going to make things right against Imperium. And we also had Becky Lynch versus Nia Jax, which I thought was a pretty good match here with these two. They got their history. Nia dominated a good portion of this. Becky came off the top with a missile drop kick, though, sent Nia to the outside. She came off the apron, but Nia caught her, gave her a Samoan drop on the floor. And then after the break, it was back and forth. Becky avoided the Annihilator, applied the Disarmor, but Nia rolled to the floor. And then she took Becky and slammed Becky into the barricade. And then we had Liv Morgan attacking Nia Jax, causing another disqualification. We had a DQ last week, another DQ. Liv Morgan basically getting back at Becky Lynch. They started having words, and then Nia Jax attacked both of them and left Liv laying with a leg drop on the floor. So they're trying to protect Liv Morgan here, I guess, for the time being. Shout out again to Psycho Jet Black, who sent in a $2 super chat. Thank you for that. Says, do you do the 5-knuckle while wearing jorts and hat? No, I respect John Cena. That's his move. I think the only guy who can get away with doing the 5-knuckle is R-Truth. R-Truth is the one guy who can do it, and nobody's going to call him a copycat or anything like that. He's the guy that does it, not me. I respect John Cena too much. But thank you for that super chat. And now we move on. We had Ricochet approaching Adam Pearce about the Intercontinental title. So several people trying to throw their name in the hat for the match with Gunther at WrestleMania. And Becky Lynch confronted Liv Morgan backstage. A match was set up for next week, and women's champion Rhea Ripley walked up to Becky and laughed at her and then took her leave. Adam Pearce made his announcement, which was, and if you're not a fan of the multi-man WrestleMania matches, then you liked this announcement, because Adam Pearce revealed that there will not be a multi-man match at WrestleMania, but rather there will be a gauntlet match next week. Sami Zayn, JD McDonough, Ricochet, Big Bronson Reed, and Chad Gable. They will be in this gauntlet match next week, with the winner facing Gunther for the IC title at WrestleMania 40. I would have liked to have seen a ladder match with these guys so they can have the WrestleMania match, because I feel like, yes, a one-on-one match. I mean, they could have done a ladder match with the winner going on to night 2 to face Gunther. I just feel like the guys that don't win the match and get the title shot at Gunther, they're just going to be thrown in some battle royal or something anyways. So I would have liked to have seen like a ladder match with these guys on WrestleMania night 1, and the winner getting the match with Gunther on night 2. But I mean, this is fine too. There's a little bit of intrigue in this, because is it going to be Sami Zayn or is it going to be Chad Gable? Like, I don't see it being the other guys, but anything's possible. It definitely seems, though, like WWE's building up to either Zayn or Gable getting this opportunity. Psycho Jet Black sent in a $2 super chat. Thank you for that. Says, seriously, I miss Money in the Bank at WrestleMania. I do too, and I think they should just ditch the Money in the Bank concept, or actually, I like the idea of maybe just doing one Money in the Bank at WrestleMania and then doing another Money in the Bank at the Premium Live event, having one be the women's match and then the other be in the men's match, so you don't have two of the same match on one show. Do one men's, one women's. You can either have the men's at WrestleMania or have the men's at Money in the Bank and then have the other one at the other show. But yeah, I do miss it, to answer your question or comment or respond to your comment. We had Andrade making his debut on Monday Night Raw. They were billing it as his debut, as if he never wrestled on Monday Night Raw before, which, I mean, he did plenty of times. We had Andrade versus Apollo Crews, who I almost forgot still had a job with the company. I half thought that he was one of the guys that was released. We had this match between Andrade and Apollo Crews, and it was not bad. It was a solid match here. They shook hands. They had some sportsmanship here. Crews got in a little bit of offense, but this was Apollo's enhancement role that he was in, putting over Andrade. Andrade did the Three Amigos, the double running knees in the corner, and then finished off Apollo with the hammerlock DDT. Match was all right, just reestablishing Andrade. Shout out to Jeremy, who sent in a $5 super chat. Thank you for that, Jeremy. I appreciate it very much. He says, The Rock could have buried Seth Rollins and Cody Rhodes by naming off his legendary opponents, not in the same league. He's elevating them. Makes me sick how fans treat him. Well, The Rock is so good on the mic that he could pretty much bury anybody he wanted to. I mean, The Rock is in a league of his own. So yeah, The Rock, I feel like, definitely has to tone it down a little bit with his promos, because he could smoke anybody on the mic if he really wanted to. He's The Rock, He is, to use RVD's phrase, one of a kind. Yeah, Rollins' comeback was not good. The diarrhea Dwayne, but like I said, the crowd reacted to it, so whatever. We had Sami Zayn backstage, and he talked about the gauntlet match being do or die for him. You know, he's got to get this shot at the Intercontinental title. And then Valhalla and Ivar confronted Zayn, and a match was set up for later on. We had another backstage segment with several of the women's tag teams. Natalya told Tegan Nox they need to regroup. They need to get hungry and forget their manners, which is a reference to her dad, Jim Neidhart. I actually remember that promo with the Hart Foundation. I think it was 1990 or 91, maybe SummerSlam 90, somewhere in that period. They cut that promo, and Neidhart said, "We're hungry and we're going to forget our manners." So that was a little cool nod to her dad. And then there was another thing with Candice LeRae and Indy Hartwell. They were talking, and Maxine Dupree came in with Ivy Nile, and Candice seemed very annoyed by Maxine. And I think they were teasing a heel turn with Candice LeRae. I mean, she stormed off and was very frustrated with Maxine. We had Judgment Day versus Imperium in a tag team match, another heel versus heel match. It was a good match, but I feel like because the crowd didn't know who to cheer for, they were mostly quiet for this. It was back and forth with both teams. Not really your standard tag team match where one team dominates for a while, usually the heel team. They both tried to cheat a little bit and double team when the referee's back was turned. Priest came in, and eventually Priest got the win, pinning Vinci with the South of Heaven choke slam. Another match where I was a bit surprised that Imperium lost here. I mean, they got to build up a team for Judgment Day at WrestleMania. I mean, I didn't think it was going to be Imperium, but I'm thinking it should be Miz and R-Truth, although they only got a little small segment, which we'll talk about here in a few moments. We had the announcement to confirm that Paul Heyman is going into the WWE Hall of Fame, which very much deserved. Paul Heyman, big part of ECW, the creative force behind that revolution that changed the industry. And then, of course, Heyman, also known for his manager work in the 90s and his writing behind the scenes in WWE, especially with the SmackDown brand, like in 2003, and then later becoming the advocate for Brock Lesnar. And it's going to be interesting to see if Lesnar is acknowledged at all during the Hall of Fame speech, considering he's canceled from WWE right now. And of course, CM Punk, Roman Reigns, and then not so big names like Curtis Axel. Heyman represented a lot of people. Chat room, who do you think should be inducted into the Hall of Fame? And who do you think should do the intro speech for Paul Heyman? Walter sent in a $2 super chat. Shout out to Walter Cruz. Follow him, Rage of Wrestling, for his videos. I would say Roman Reigns would be a great choice. CM Punk, since he's injured and he was a Paul Heyman guy. Although you would think in kayfabe, CM Punk putting over the heel would not be the best move, but you know, it's the Hall of Fame. You could have it be somebody like Joey Styles, which I think is less likely. Tommy Dreamer, Rob Van Dam, a guy from ECW could do it. But I think that's less likely. My guess is it'll either be Roman Reigns, maybe The Rock, could be The Rock. Roman Reigns, The Rock, or CM Punk, I think are the three most likely. And as far as people for the Hall of Fame besides Heyman, I think it's kind of cool that Heyman, I presume he's getting the main spot. He's the headliner this year. When is Batista ever going to go in, by the way? But I like the idea of Paul Heyman going in WrestleMania 40, Philadelphia, very fitting for Paul Heyman. I'm seeing a lot of comments about Lex Luger. He's a great choice. Demolition, long overdue. Ken Shamrock. They should keep it short, though, because the Hall of Fame is airing after SmackDown. I like the idea also of a more elite class, not having like 7 or 8 names. Keep it small. But yeah, I'm hoping Ken Shamrock and Demolition and Lex Luger. Jim Johnston would be a great choice if they wanted to induct a non-wrestling personality. But since Heyman's going in, I don't think Jim Johnston's going in. Shout out to D. Martin 5th, who sent in a $5 super chat. Thank you for that, D. Martin 5th. I appreciate it. D. Martin 5th says, do you think that it's possible that any promotions like WCW and ECW as a whole would be inducted into future Hall of Fame classes? Only if they completely run out of groups and people to induct. And I don't see that happening anytime soon. So I think that's unlikely. They've done factions like DX and the Four Horsemen, NWO, but I don't see them actually doing like an entire promotion. That would only be like a last resort if they got nothing else, but they got plenty of worthy names that haven't been inducted yet. Back to Raw, we had McIntyre backstage doing an interview, and he talked about how Seth Rollins is a spotlight junkie. McIntyre's like, whatever. The title deserves better than Rollins. And then he talked about Jey Uso, said that he's sorry that there's not a chance in hell Jey Uso is going to win their match. We had Rhea Ripley backstage confronting Damage Control and Io Sky, and she took a quote from the page of Walter White. She said, "Stay out of my territory." And Io just laughed at her. Maybe because she never watched Breaking Bad and didn't get the reference, because if she did, I think she would be pretty terrified. We had Sami Zayn going up against Ivar. And we had a funny moment before the match where Valhalla took off her antlers and put them on the head of Michael Cole. And Michael Cole actually did commentary while wearing the antlers. Match was pretty good. Predictable, though. Like, Sami Zayn's going for the IC title. He's not going to lose here to Ivar. But it was a good match. Ivar using his power. Zayn actually able to hit some impressive moves on the big man. He did a sunset flip power bomb, exploder suplex. Ivar came in, stood strong, did a lot of moves on Zayn, countered the haluva kick, and then Zayn was able to avoid the doomsault. Finally picked up the win with the haluva kick over Ivar. And then after the match was over, we had Bronson Reed, big Bronson Reed, attacking Sami Zayn, took him down with the tsunami to build up some momentum for next week's gauntlet match. And then Gunther was interviewed backstage about the gauntlet match, and Chad Gable showed up and once again brought up his daughter crying, said that this is not just about the title in WrestleMania, but also a path to redemption, and said that he is going to put a smile on his daughter's face. So yeah, it really comes down to either Sami Zayn or Chad Gable. Maybe they do some sort of double pin or something next week, and the gauntlet match ends in a tie. I mean, I don't know what they're going to do next week, but yeah, would not shock me if somehow they make it a three-way with Zayn and Gable both getting a shot. Because I mean, both of them have these stories that have been building over the past several weeks. Sami Zayn's got to finally win a singles title, and then Chad Gable trying to right that wrong and what happened to his daughter. Houseman says, how big of a super chat for you to change your name to Big Aaron? You mean like at the bottom of the screen right over here? Send me something and I'll do it. Surprise me. I'll do it even if you send $2. Do whatever you want. We had Gunther basically just laughing off Chad Gable, as you would expect. And then Jey Uso cut a backstage promo hyping up the match with Drew McIntyre. And we had R-Truth playing 2K24 with Xavier Woods and DX, or DIY. But we all know R-Truth thinks it's DX. And then The Miz talked about them going after Judgment Day and the tag team titles. Kind of just a throwaway segment to get these guys on TV. And then we had Jey Uso going up against Drew McIntyre in the main event of Monday Night Raw. And they brawled on the outside of the ring. Jey Uso was tossed over the announce desk. Drew McIntyre continued to dominate after the commercial break, suplexed Jey on the floor. We had another commercial break, and Jey made his comeback, went for the Uso splash. His brother, Solo Sikoa, came out to ringside, and Cody Rhodes ran down, fought off Solo, and then Jey countered the Claymore, hit multiple super kicks, hit a spear, but then, surprise, surprise, Jimmy Uso showed back up, and Drew McIntyre took advantage of the distraction, won with the Claymore, and then Seth Rollins ran down, attacked Jimmy, but then Rollins was taken out by McIntyre via the Claymore. He trash-talked Rollins, and as the show was going off the air, we had CM Punk chants. They got to have CM Punk as the special guest referee, I'm thinking. Punk's got to be able to do something. Like, I don't know, like, physically, if he can count to 3, maybe he can do it with his one good arm. But yeah, I feel like Punk's got to be involved somehow, you know. And we got Raw coming up in Chicago. Like, they got to have Punk in the mix here, I think. So overall, Hamp Connell said, sounds like this was a very boring show. I didn't think it was that great. So if I sounded bored with the recap, it's because, well, I was kind of bored with the show. You know, everything from the opening segment. I mean, the main event, you knew Jimmy was coming out again. At least I did. Like, to me, it was just copy and paste what they did the other week. They already had Jimmy attack Jey. Jey should have shown up on SmackDown trying to get his hands on Jimmy. I don't know why he just ignored it. And then Jimmy shows up again. They're filling time. I mean, really, Walter nailed it. Like, it's not necessarily boring, but just, you know, we got another month until WrestleMania, and they're trying to stretch out these storylines best they can. At least some of them. Some of them move faster than others. It was a decent Raw. I would probably go with a C plus. It did drag. I am gonna say that. Like I felt I didn't really feel overly connected to too much on the show, but it also wasn't bad. It was a solid show. Chunky sent in a $5 super chat. Thank you for the super chat. Says, sucks that Brock Lesnar won't induct Heyman. Do you think Paul Heyman will mention Brock Lesnar during his speech? Well, he has to, right? I mean, Brock Lesnar was a big part of Heyman's career. They have to for the Hall of Fame speech. I don't think he's going to talk a lot about Lesnar, but I think he will at least say something and give him a nod. But they'll probably focus on ECW. If I had to make a guess, most of the speech will be about ECW, and then they'll kind of just lump together Heyman being an advocate for a lot of great superstars, and then he'll just name off Brock Lesnar, and then he'll turn his attention to Roman Reigns, something like that. He'll be mentioned, I think, but not heavily. That's my guess at this point. So thank you guys for tuning in for this week's Raw recap. If you enjoyed the video, please give the video a thumbs up on YouTube. Spread the word. Tell a friend about the No DQ channel. Hamp Connell sent in a $5 super chat. Thank you, Hamp. Says, bold prediction. This will be one of the worst WrestleManias of all time. Not as bad as WrestleMania 34, but pretty bad. Wow. I mean, that's a very bold prediction. I'm going to go the opposite and say this is going to be a top 3 WrestleMania. Cody Rhodes, The Rock, Triple H era, TKO. I say it's going to be a top 3 WrestleMania. Hell, I think it has a legit shot to be the best WrestleMania of all time. So there's my bold prediction, because WrestleMania 17 was such a great show. I hated the Austin heel turn. So if WrestleMania 40, being the milestone show, can give us a great card on both nights from top to bottom, I think it could potentially be number 1. So there you go. I'm going the opposite of Hamp. Psycho Jet Black sent in a $2 super chat. Thank you for that, Psycho. Says, will Heyman mention the Dangerous Alliance? I think he will. I mean, Steve Austin was part of the group. I would think that Paul Heyman would mention Steve Austin in his speech. I think he'll mention his early career. He'll mention, being a manager and then transitioning to the creative role in ECW and managing the company, and then mention his time on SmackDown. But I think ECW will probably be the focal point. Thank you all again. Much love and appreciation to everybody out there. Stay tuned to NoDQ.com for the latest news updates. Buy a shirt if you want to support the site. NoDQ.com/merch. Say yes to NoDQ, and I will see you all next time.